Hello and welcome to the beach. It's actually snowing outside and pretty cold, but I don't want to think about that. I want to be on the beach. Originally this week I had planned to do a range test, a different version of what I did last year of taking the car down to Iowa and back, seeing how far we could go in 8 hours. But the day I was going to do that, we had a blizzard. And with so much wind and snow on the road and some roads closing, I figured I could still do it. The car could handle it. But putting an extra car on the road isn't safe for everybody else or emergency responders if something were to happen. And we wouldn't get a good result because people shouldn't be driving in conditions like that. So that's going to have to wait at least another week, but I hope to get that done soon because I really want to compare that apples to apples with a range test in the Model Y. Hopefully we'll be getting that in the next few months in 2021. But speaking of the new year, I want to take a minute to step back and look at where we were at 2019, where we were really kind of starting to see some momentum in EV adoption. And there were going to be a whole bunch of new models launching in 2020. It was really an exciting time. I know the Minnesota EV Owners Group and the Minnesota Tesla Group both had a lot of plans to do ride and drive events. I'd done a couple of those in 2019 and was looking forward to doing way more in 2020. We really wanted to give people their first EV experience, the butts and seats experience that made all of us switch. I don't need to rehash 2020. You know what happened. But let's just say that after March, none of that really happened in the US and almost everything was shut down. There were a few exceptions and some releases or announcements at least that were pretty exciting. But those butts and seats experiences never really happened for the most part. Which left a lot of people who may have been considering making a switch at the end of 2019 not having a really good place to get information. And if you don't have a friend or family member that owns an EV, you're not getting a first-hand experience and real-life knowledge. So in the last year, most people have only had headlines or articles to really take them through what was going on in the EV space. And maybe they were getting that from Car and Driver or Top Gear or Bloomberg, or maybe it was Consumer Reports or Popular Mechanics, something like that. And if you clicked on something having to do with EVs, you might start seeing things in your feed from Electrek or Inside EVs or Tasmanian or Teslarati or some other publication having to do with mainly electric vehicles. So if you were seeing stuff from the big publications, you're probably getting about 50% correct nowadays, where pieces are relatively well researched and there's a little bit of history. They're starting to kind of grasp what's going on in the EV world. And if it's an EV specific publication, then you're going to get a lot more correct information, but maybe a little more fluff. And I don't mean to be negative about the fluff, but I have seen 2-word tweets from Elon Musk turned into novellas by some of these outlets. Personally, I suggest just following Elon Musk on Twitter, and then you'll get the news right from the source, warts and all. And then if you need some context or understanding, then go to those different EV publications to kind of get the meat on the bones from what he's talking about. And I also follow the other EV brands, Rivian, Lucid, Tesla, Ford, GM, and even kind of keep tabs on what Volkswagen's doing, just so I can have it right from the horse's mouth and then get context from there. And because I follow this stuff closely, a lot of news items pop up in my feeds all the time, and generally you can tell, if you know what the story is already, you can kind of tell what each publication's take is going to be on it. So I'll click on those a lot of times and not even read the article because I already have the context, but I read it for the comments because that's where the good stuff is. I love reading the comments on EV posts, especially for publications like Car and Driver or Popular Mechanics, somewhere where it isn't necessarily an all EV crowd, because it gives you a really good sense of where we are socially in understanding and accepting the idea of electric vehicles. The comments generally fall into 4 basic groups, and depending on the outlet, there can be more or fewer in each group. But it's pretty interesting to see how it breaks down and then how these groups communicate, because it can get pretty rowdy and sometimes frustrating, sometimes fun. The first group of the spectrum, on one vocal end of the spectrum, is Tesla owners who are ridiculously pro-Tesla. And I'm very pro-Tesla, but these people take it way further. Tesla can do no wrong. They've never, had any missteps in their life as a company. And anyone who buys anything else is a complete fool or a moron. And this isn't necessarily just Tesla, but Tesla is definitely the biggest group of this type of commenter. But there are definitely Bolt and Leaf and Taycan owners who have that same feeling. Like, I bought what I bought. What I bought is the best, and therefore everything else is garbage. And with Tesla, at least, sometimes it's about the car, or sometimes it's the advantage of the supercharger network over other networks or public networks. But regardless, people in this group will find any reason why their brand is the best. Next, we have the bulk of the EV owning community, and these people are generally pretty chill and excited for any new battery breakthrough or technology, as long as it seems like it's got pretty good promise. And their attitude is the more the merrier. And this group includes Tesla owners, most Tesla owners, I would say. But some people in this group, in this category, will get a little annoyed if it's all Tesla talk 24/7, which is understandable. One potential trigger of this group is if you love EVs, but you don't love them for their reasons, the right reasons, which are, of course, whatever their reasons are. But generally, this group is very chill, very cool, and very ready to accept people in and give test drives, love to talk about their ownership experience, and like I said, the more the merrier. The next group is what I like to call the well-meaning skeptic. Now, these are people who own internal combustion engine vehicles, and which is most people, and they've been told their whole lives that electric vehicles are the future, and someday we're going to have flying cars and everything. And so they're curious about it, but not quite ready to make that leap, and they don't know anyone personally who has an EV, a friend or relative, and so they're just kind of questioning things as they learn a little bit more about it. And a lot of these people genuinely care for the environment, and they just want to understand a little more detail. They want to do better. They care about climate change. They care about better air quality. And going to electric seems like a really big jump. So when they see these negative stories or misinformation, it's a little scary when you think that some countries and possibly some states are going to be banning the sale of ICE vehicles by 2030 or 2035. Now, there will be a used market for a while, but new sales will be banned in some countries. And that seems pretty scary. So this group really relies on those other two first groups to give constructive, helpful response to their questions or an article they may have seen and they're asking about it, not as a gotcha, but as people looking for information. And these people are the people you want to get the butts in seats and really give them an EV experience, give them time to ask the questions, and really until you drive one, there are questions you don't know to even ask. So this group needs a little patience, but is willing to get on board once they learn. If that group was the well-meaning skeptic, then this next group is the ill-meaning skeptic. They have no interest in learning or experiencing EVs or anything like that, but they want to pretend like they do. And these are people who post big pictures of, the giant open pit copper mines and say, but what about the lithium? because they don't know the difference between the different materials and the mines. And, and there are some really significant concerns about battery materials and things like that. But these people really don't want to address that. Their concern really isn't human rights. It's shut up, you EV nerds. Most people who are producing batteries, it seems, are trying to do so ethically more and more, and tracing where the cobalt comes from, trying to remove it from batteries. So some of those issues can be resolved. Nothing's perfect. The oil industry isn't perfect either. But there is a concerted effort on the part of battery manufacturers to make this a cleaner and better production cycle and do more and more recycling. And this group is also the group that would really love to have an EV. It just has to be perfect and fit every single vehicle need. It's got to be small enough to fit in their garage, but massive enough to haul these giant horse trailers. It's got to be under $20,000 and charge in 2 seconds and go 1,000 miles. They want to switch, sure, but only if it's perfect in every scenario. Not taking into account that for ICE vehicles, we have things like a Toyota Yaris and a Ford F-250. Not all vehicles serve the same purpose. They're best summed up in a great tweet I saw by Dirty Tesla yesterday that had me laughing out loud. Bro, I can drive 700 miles without refueling and then put gas in 2 minutes and keep going, and I never pee or use my legs on a road trip. Hashtag blood clots. Next, we come to the other vocal end of the spectrum, the Iceholes. And these guys, and usually they're guys, they've got thick crude running through their veins and breathe diesel fumes and nothing in the world is going to change their mind. Diesel will live forever. Black lung be damned. And speaking of black lung, these are the guys who are always really quick to point out that your EV is powered by coal. Even though massive coal plants are being demolished all around the world, because they just can't compete on cost with renewables. But these guys don't care about that. It's coal or nothing. Now, it's not that they're stupid or wouldn't like EVs if they gave them a chance. They've just got their whole identity wrapped up in, the diesel world, and that's their thing. They're not going to let anything into that shell. And this kind of goes with high-end sports car people too, but eventually, even they are going to be switching to hybrids and EVs for daily drivers, even if they keep the fun toys for the weekends or for, farm work where battery electric vehicles might not be the answer for another decade. But I've said it before, EVs are getting better every year, and the charging infrastructure is getting better every year, and our grid keeps getting cleaner and cleaner. Recycling and reuse of batteries is still kind of in its infancy, but there are a lot of programs that are doing this, different companies that are exploring different ways to do that, different reuse for battery modules or packs. And as that grows, it's going to catch up with the global EV production. And it's important to remember that most EVs on the road are still fairly new. And speaking of new, there are a ton of great EV options that are going to be available in 2021. So hopefully we'll be able to pick back up right where we left off. Once the vaccines roll out, we'll be able to pick up right at the end of 2019 and go right into those plans we had for 2020, just bumped back a year. But the good thing is people didn't do a ton of driving this year, so maybe it's kind of a free pass. But we definitely want to do more in-person education, get those butts in seats and give people an EV experience and a chance to ask questions and have good, constructive answers. Also, hoping to have some fantastic electric road trips this year. But in the meantime, I'm wishing you all a happy new year and hoping you have a wonderful 2021. Thanks for watching and have a great day.